we should start beating men who beat women? Yes, absolutely. If you see a snake coming towards you, you're not going to tell yourself, oh, not all snakes are poisonous. You're just going to run. To every woman is all men until proven otherwise. Every time I'm filming outside, people look at me like I'm crazy. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I want to talk about something that is very heavy and something I think needs more attention. I personally talk about it in female-only spaces, but I usually don't talk about it on my channel, or I haven't, made the conscious effort to make a whole video on it. And that is black femicide. And I say black femicide because one, racially I'm black. Two, there's a lot of femicide in the continent of Africa. So I kind of want to use those two countries, Nigeria and America, and talk about the growing instances of women losing their lives to their intimate partners and how, we can quote unquote curb this problem. I know that this is going to be a heavy one, so trigger warning if you can't handle heavy topics like this. Before I get into it, please make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you also subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you'll be notified every time I post a new video, and make sure you leave a comment in the comment section. So I want to start with what the definition of femicide is. Femicide is the intentional murder of a woman or a girl based on her gender alone. Throughout this video, I'm going to be either reading out some statistics, or I'm going to put the screenshots on the screen and then also put the links in the description box so that you guys can easily reference them if you want to. I think this is a very peculiar thing to talk about or to witness as a woman who lives in the world, because oftentimes when women talk about gender inequality and how women are treated unfairly, it usually sounds like a bunch of buzzwords to people, and it sounds like a bunch of buzzwords if you haven't actually done the research, if you don't look at things for what they are, and if you just don't have that empathy for women. A lot of people don't look at women as human beings. We're looked at as second-class citizens. We're looked at as like a mutation of a man or something. We're looked at as extensions of men. We're not looked at as human beings with actual lives. I was watching a creator on YouTube, and there was something she said that really struck me. She said that sometimes men look at women in the same way we look at insects, or the same way we look at animals. We look down on animals or insects and look at them like a lower life form. That thought really stayed with me. Also, if you're a man and this doesn't apply to you, then it doesn't apply to you. I don't want anybody in my comments to say that I am being dramatic or that I'm grouping all men into a particular group. Everybody knows that in the world, men are the ones that commit more crimes. So there is no excuse for saying, oh, not all men. Yeah, we know it's not all men. If you see a snake coming towards you, you're not going to tell yourself, oh, not all snakes are poisonous. You're just going to run. To every woman is all men until proven otherwise, because we can't tell until we are in that situation with said men. I want to talk about some of the general causes of femicide. In this video, we're not going to be blaming the victims or anything like that, because at the end of the day, we should have more smoke for people who commit these crimes than the victims of said crimes. So a very prominent reason for why femicide is a thing is because of gender inequality. I think I already talked about this. Women are often looked down on. We are looked down on as, lower forms of life. Even in Nigeria, like, there are so many snide remarks you hear from men or even from fellow women, and they say things like, oh, you don't do this, you're a woman. I think I spoke about this in 2 of my other videos, and I'm going to link them below in the description box. But just the fact that you're looked down on and you're told to not do this and to not do that because you don't want to, intimidate a man. So on the surface, it doesn't sound, dangerous or anything. But imagine when successful women get into relationships with men who are jealous of that success, or men who, don't want them to do so well. For instance, Nancy Meteor. She was a very successful woman who, unfortunately was murdered by her husband. But that's like an example of, when you couple up with a man and he's kind of intimidated by your success, then that is unfortunately a pipeline to you losing your life. Another prominent cause, I would say, is leaving an abusive relationship. The most dangerous time for a victim of abuse is when they are trying to leave the relationship. And I think on average, it takes about 7 times times for them to attempt to leave that relationship before they are successful, and sometimes they're not even successful. Another reason is normalizing domestic violence. I can't even count the number of videos I've seen of women being beaten to a pulp and they are still expected to go back to their abusers, especially in Nigeria. There was a video I watched on Instagram. Oh my God, this video. I don't even know if YouTube is going to let me put that video on here because it's kind of graphic. And it was this 18-year-old girl, very, very young. And I'm just like, where is her family? She is married to this man who is significantly older than her. He keeps putting his hands on her like there's proof of her having bruises on her face, and the man is kind of like telling the people who are telling him to leave her alone, he's telling them, oh, leave my wife for me, leave my wife for me. In a sane society, that man should be in handcuffs.
You are mad!
I've heard you.
Your wife is your bastard!
Then leave my wife.
Look at your wife! Look at
useless
human being! Useless
You
human
drag my
being.
wife with me?
Yes!
Your
Your wife that you are about to kill.
Leave her for
Which
me.
wife that you are about to kill?
Then leave
Let
her for
us
me.
see your wife's face. Let us see your wife's face. Leave her alone! Leave her alone! Leave her alone! Leave her! Look at the person you are beating. Look at the man. You want to kill her. This girl is just 18 years. 18 years. This man is brainwashing her. Beating her daily. Yes.
I don't even understand the concept of parents allowing their 18-year-old children to get married, 18-year-old daughters to get married in the first place. So that's just one example, and I'm going to attach that video here if I can, but if I can't, then sorry. Sometimes YouTube flags some of these things as violent content, and I'm not trying to get my video taken down. Another reason why femicide persists is the use of firearms, or just easy access to firearms, and I think that would apply more to a country like the US, where they have the Second Amendment. So, you know, you can obtain a gun license and then get a gun, and I think most of the femicide cases here in the US are perpetrated by firearms. The perpetrators use firearms to commit those crimes. We also have institutional failure and a lack of checks and balances in countries like Nigeria, where, you know, it's hyper-religious and people are looking at marriage as a thing of, oh, you don't want to separate from your husband, you don't want to get divorced because God hates divorce. So thought processes like that will make women feel like they have to remain in relationships where they are being maltreated, where they are being abused, where they are being physically abused, and sometimes they even end up losing their lives. I think a good example of this was Osinachi, or is Osinachi. Osinachi was a gospel singer. I'm going to leave her picture on the screen, and she was going through the same thing, domestic abuse with her husband, and he eventually, you know, unalived her. He took her life. And it's just so unfortunate because she was such a talented singer. She was so beautiful, so full of life. Like, you could hear the energy in her voice when she would sing, beautiful vocalist and everything. And she was taken away from this world by her husband. And I talk about institutional failure because a lot of times in Nigeria, we don't have official bodies that are set up by the government to help women out of these situations. Because when you see, you know, organizations that rally around women who suffer from abuse or who were abuse victims, they are usually NGOs. It's usually women rallying around each other, creating communities for each other so that, you know, they don't leave any woman behind. And when you even go report these things to the police, the first thing the police could ask you, and this is in Nigeria, right? They will ask you, oh, what were you doing? What women today talk? Women talk anyhow. How are you talking to your husband? Madam, go back home and reconcile with your husband. It's just very disgusting. Like, it makes my skin crawl. And, you know, sometimes when I talk about how I really don't feel connected to Nigeria on so many levels, you know, it's not merely because I think I'm progressive to some extent. It's because some of these things are just outdated, point blank period. They shouldn't be happening. And when you're very aware of what is going on, then it's hard for you to connect yourself with a culture that basically doesn't look at women as anything. Well, sometime this year there was this Ozoro festival, Delta states, where they said women shouldn't come out of the house, right? Which is just like, all these things are just so outdated in my opinion. But, you know, they said women shouldn't come out, and to me that doesn't make any sense. Why are you asking women to stay home? Notice how all these customs and traditions never prevent men from doing anything. It always prevents women from doing one or two things. The whole threat was that, oh, if you come outside and the men see you, then you're going to, you know, I don't want to say the word because YouTube is so sensitive, but I will put it on the screen, right? They're going to are you? There were videos, graphic videos of women being assaulted, women being R-worded. It was just so disturbing to watch. Like sometimes I can't even, when I see bad news on social media, I just scroll past real quick because my heart cannot take it. Like it physically makes me sick. Another prominent reason why femicide exists is due to organized crime and conflicts in countries. For instance, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where you have countries where there is a lot of political unrest, and in times like that, women are usually abused, they get maltreated, even children as well. So countries like that have a lot of political unrest, even in Nigeria, you find out that it's always women at the receiving end of gender-based violence. I'm going to read out some statistics because I don't want to just put information out there, and I'm going to start with statistics in the US. So in the US, Black women experience femicide at a higher rate, 4 times higher than white women. Black women make up 30% of all women murdered by men, despite being only 14% of the population. Can you imagine that? Black women only make up 14% of the US population, and they are murdered at a rate of 30%. African countries like South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, Democratic Republic of Congo have high femicide rates, and in Africa in general, it's about 22,000 women per year who are lost to femicide. And this is underreported, okay? Especially in African countries, it's underreported because a lot of times crime is swept under the rug and people don't face consequences for their actions, especially if you end up murdering a woman. I kind of want to put this information out there because I think that people don't take women's lives seriously. When women talk about unfair treatment, it's usually, sometimes it's like at the surface level, you know, maybe not being paid as much as we deserve, not getting enough perks such as maternity leave, or just, you know, shaping society in a way that it adapts to what a woman needs. You know, when you say stuff like society should do better and do such and such for women who are in the workforce, people's rebuttal to that is, this is why women shouldn't be in the workforce, because you guys get pregnant and you have children. It just so happens that half of the population is able to bring children into this world. So does that mean that we shouldn't work and earn money? Especially given the current political and economic situation of these countries. You can't afford to survive on a single income household. So whether you like it or not, women have to work. And women have always worked, especially in pre-colonial Africa. I can speak for Nigeria specifically, and for Igbo women, we've always worked, we've always been hardworking. We farm, we sell goods in the market. So it's not really a new thing for women to work. With colonization, a bunch of new ideas came into Nigeria and into African countries. So now people try to adopt systems and frameworks that just don't work for us. I want to give out a couple of pointers to how we can not necessarily stop femicide, but how we can, I guess, make the world a better place for us women to live in. And the first thing on my list is for us to shame abusers. Yes, abusers do not deserve any grace. They do not deserve to be integrated back into society like regular people, because if you are capable of putting your hands on someone and disfiguring someone's face or being domestically violent, then that means that you can take that person's life if no one is watching. So I think we should shame abusers more, and we shouldn't, you know, urge women to go back to their abusers, because if you end up losing your life in that situation, guess what? That man is going to go and marry another woman. When you don't shame abusers, it kind of empowers them. So that way, when they go and get with another woman or something, another woman goes through the same thing. So I 100% believe in shaming abusers. I'm going to use a pop culture reference to buttress my points, right? So, you know, when people talk about not liking Chris Brown and people say he's an abuser, a lot of people will say he only put his hands on Rihanna in 2009, but this person has collected charges like infinity stones. Okay, he puts his hands on both men and women. He's physically violent. And when women talk about how we don't want to support somebody like that who is physically violent and abusive, it's always seen as, oh, you're too woke, you're too this, you're too that. But when you don't shame them, you keep empowering them. I think another way for us to curb this problem or reduce this problem is for us to demand more from political leaders, especially in countries like Nigeria. The video I filmed before this one, I was talking about how we need to hold our leaders accountable. We need to actually make them campaign on issues that affect people, issues that affect half of the population. Women make up half of the population. So if something is affecting half of the population, don't you think that it is worth paying attention to. And even if it was only affecting 1% of the population, it's still a problem that needs attention. So I think demanding more from politicians and saying, hey, like, we pay all this money in taxes, but we don't see it being used in ways that benefit women. For instance, you know, having federal or state organizations or whatever that make sure that people who, or women who suffer from abuse, can find shelter, can find jobs, are able to get restraining orders, especially in a country like Nigeria. Another way that we can solve this problem is to rally around victims of abuse. The first step of abuse is isolation. Usually an abuser will try to isolate you from your friends, from your family. This is something that's so common in Nigeria because, you know, you hear people saying things like, and I'm not joking, okay? People say things like, oh, when you get married, change your number, change your phone. Don't have all your old unmarried friends. And this advice is usually specifically for women, right? They will tell you to do all these things, cut off your family, do this one. You should only cater to your husband, as if you're not a human being who had a life prior to marrying this man. If you are in a situation where your husband or your partner or whatever is trying to isolate you from your family, from your community, from your friends, you should run, because isolation is the first step of abuse. They will try to isolate you so that way you don't have anybody to run to. And that's why it's very important for women to hold on to our communities. You know, when girls say, I don't really like being friends with girls because they're so mean, you're going to lose. Okay, so it's in our best interest to stick together. There's something, and this is so weird to say, but there's something that I have learned from men, and it's the fact that they know how to stay on code. They know how to stick together. Even when a man is accused of something that is so egregious, other men will still defend him. And I need women to be like that. Not necessarily defending bad behavior per se, but just staying on code with other women. Because at the end of the day, I think I've gotten to the point where I realize that we only have each other. Yeah, you may have some men here and there who stand up for women and maybe they're allies or whatever, but for the most part, men stick together, and I think women should do the same. My next point is kind of funny. So I think that we should start beating men who beat women. Yes, absolutely. There is this African woman, I can't remember which African country she's from, but she said something along the lines of her goal for the year was to beat 1,000 men.
So I've recently started a business where I beat men. So you are in a violent relationship. This boyfriend is trying to scam you. You're confused about him. He's cheating on you. He's beating you up. It's actually given me more money than any content creation gig has ever given me. Like, I've gotten so many clients from TikTok, and I'm so grateful, you guys. Shout out to you, babes. I love you. My girl is from TikTok. You guys have really, really kept the lights on in my house. So yeah, I beat them up properly. I have a group of people that I work with to like beat them back into like shape. Do you understand? These men who go out and drink and then they are at a random kafunda, they just point me towards the kafunda. You understand? Jump on a call with me. My number is in my bio on TikTok, as a matter of fact. Wake me up at midnight to beat a man. Please, please, give me that opportunity. So I have a goal. In all this, I have a goal. I want to be able to beat at least 1,000 men by...
It sounded so funny, but it makes sense because she was specifically targeting men who physically abuse women. So something like that makes sense. I'm not necessarily saying you should go toe-to-toe with a man all the time, because we all know that men have the biological advantage, they're stronger and everything. But there's a Nigerian or an African proverb that says that when the people of the village come together to cook for the king is not going to be able to finish the food, which means that, you know, there's strength in numbers. So if you target that man in numbers, then you should at least teach them a lesson, so to speak. Now, I know that, you know, it's kind of a controversial advice, so just chew the meat, spit out the bones, and it's contextual. Or maybe you can find other men who will go toe-to-toe with him, but I really think that abusers need to start facing consequences of their actions one way or the other. My next point is for women to be stronger. Now, I know that, yes, men have the biological advantage and everything, so we can't necessarily go toe-to-toe with them as far as, you know, physical strength and whatnot. But I think that women should at least learn some kind of self-defense, have self-defense weapons, be it, you know, a pew-pew, be it a pepper spray, a taser, anything. I can't tell you the number of videos I've seen where women are getting beat on and men are just standing there, just looking. It's so ironic because you hear men say that they are the protectors and such, but in situations where they should actually be protecting, where they should stop a grown man from hitting a woman, they don't do anything like that. It's usually women who step in to stop that situation. I'm going to get a little bit political about this, right? You know how the beauty standard for women, especially, in certain communities, I don't think it's a thing for ethnic communities per se, because ethnic communities value when women are voluptuous and, thick and whatever. But I think women should stop striving to be so dainty and small and not eating. And the idea of beauty standards making you look weak and fragile is because these men will want to have advantage over you if you are in a situation where they're trying to overpower you. I'm going to put a tweet on the screen because I saw somebody that worded this perfectly. Stop striving to be small and to be dainty and to be this. You want to lose. Yeah, I get it. Losing weight is great and everything, but at the same time, as a woman, have some meat on you, have some muscle on you, so that you can hold your own if push comes to shove. We already are at a biological disadvantage, so the best thing that you can do for yourself is at least be strong enough to hold your own if push comes to shove. My next point is to call out abuse apologists. A lot of men and even women will rally behind men that have abused women. For instance, Conor McGregor, I can't say the word, but he, arred a woman to the point where they had to surgically remove a tampon from her. So many prominent figures, so many celebrities, and even non-celebrities. So many people have men in their families who have been abusive at some point to their wives or to whatever. And, you have family members who cape for them, who protect them, who shield them from the public disgrace that they're supposed to face. I am telling you today that we should start shaming those people. If you support abusers, if you're an abuse apologist, you should be shamed for it. My next point is to document the abuse as much as possible. You could get it on camera, you could write it down, you could have hidden cameras around, you could also tell people about it so that way people can actually see or hear from the horse's mouth what's going on. Documenting it is so important because in as much as, it's kind of hard to fight these cases in court, it's still important for you to at least have some proof. And you have that proof so that you can look at it and say, okay, yeah, no, I'm not going back to this. Absolutely not. Finally, my last point is that we should stop shaming victims. When you shame victims, it makes it harder for us to expose abusers. It makes it harder for them to actually come out and seek help. And it makes it more likely for them to, pass away in that situation. So that's pretty much what I wanted to discuss in this video. I know that it is a heavy one and I'm sorry, but it's something that I think we need to take more seriously. I think I personally need to talk about it more because I usually shy away from topics like this because they're just so heavy to talk about. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section and I will catch you guys in my next one. Bye.